very, very, just very, that one power almost defines the entire set. Other than that, transference is great. It's like transfusion, except it gives back endurance instead of health in a certain radius around an enemy. And finally, you have fulcrum shift. Fulcrum shift is one of the most liked powers in this game, I should say. What happens is, it's like siphon power, but instead of siphon power just stealing damage from one enemy, if you have a group of enemies, it will steal damage from all those enemies and give it to all your allies. Fulcrum shift can put your allies at the damage cap very easily. It'll make it so it'll turn anything into a damage machine. Anything. This includes controllers and defenders who do not have very good damage in the first place. Kinetics, very popular, very wanted, very awesome. I love kinetics. I have 2 kinetics people myself, one on hero side, one on villain side. Anyways, moving on. Radiation emission. Radiation emission is one of the most popular debuffing sets in the game. It has very good. It has a couple of good buffs, or I should say, one good buff, which is called Accelerate Metabolism. Very similar to Speed Boost, except Accelerate Metabolism you apply in an aura around you. You click on it once, and then everyone who is around you gets Accelerate Metabolism. That does pretty much the exact same thing as Speed Boost. I mean, they're kind of comparable, kind of not. Both of them are very good powers. Accelerate Metabolism is great, but it's not defining as far as Radiation Emission itself. Radiation has really good debuffs in the form of Radiation Infection and Enervating Field and Lingering Radiation. These 3 powers you want to get if you get Radiation Emission. You know why? It will turn anything that you anchor it on, as you say. When I say anchor, I mean you pick an enemy and you toggle it on, and it will always stay on that enemy as long as 1, you have enough endurance to keep the toggle running, and 2, the enemy doesn't die. This is with the exception of Lingering Radiation. Lingering Radiation is a click power, but Enervating Field and Radiation Infection are both toggles that you anchor on an enemy. But they will reduce that enemy to very little of what the power that enemy once was. That enemy will hit you guys less. When the enemy hits you guys less, it'll hit you for less damage. And when you hit them, you'll hit them more often. And when you hit them, you'll hit them for more damage. That is the power of radiation. Plus, when you anchor it on an enemy, the radiation powers will hit all enemies around that one enemy that you anchored it on. If that doesn't make sense, leave a comment or leave something. Let me know. I'll be happy to show demonstrations of how radiation works. Radiation is just awesome. Next up, we got Sonic Resonance. Sonic Resonance is the resistance counterpart to Force Field. Sonic Resonance has shield powers that instead of giving defense, give resistance buffs. Sonic is awesome. It has a ally toggle that reduces resistance of all enemies that are within range of that ally, which is is it Disruption Field? Yeah, it is Disruption Field. Very great power. It has Sonic Dispersion, which is just like Force Field's Dispersion Bubble, which increases the resistance of all your allies within the bubble. Clarity is a great power. It is an anti-mez power that I'm sorry I didn't explain in the other secondary power sets that some other secondaries have, and I like Sonic. Sonic is great. Nothing too much else to say. It's pretty much Force Field, except everything to do with resistances instead of defense. Next up, we got Storm Summoning. Storm Summoning is very pseudo-control-y. If you ever wanted to make like a ripoff of Storm, you would want Storm Summoning. But it's very a pseudo controller set because it has Hurricane, which is a repel, but it's also a debuff. It debuffs 2-hit, which makes it so your opponents hit you less. It has Freezing Rain, which is a knockdown. It has Snowstorm, which is, you've seen that power before, but it makes it so it does minus fly and slows move speed and slows recharge. It has a knockback power, Thunderclap, but Thunderclap is a crap power, never take it. It has Tornado, which is another knockdown power, in the form of a pet that goes around and will pretty much hurl people up in the air. It looks like it also does Disorient and minuses defense, and it has Lightning Storm, which is a pet that you summon, and it will just strike out at enemies near it with lightning bolts. Storm, really cool power set, used more often in PvP than PvE. I have a Storm summoning, but it's hard to use, very hard to use, especially with things like Hurricane, which is a great power, but like it's a very hard to use secondary. Next up, we got Thermal Radiation. Thermal Radiation is supposedly like the counter, not really like the counter, but like the opposite of Cold Domination, but I'd say that's kind of not. What Thermal Radiation was villain side before all the power set proliferation went on. Didn't have anything that was comparable to Empathy, but Thermal was essentially its Empathy for a while, until they put Thermal on hero side, and only controllers get Thermal. But people on villain side didn't get anything that was comparable to Empathy until Pain Domination came out. In any case, Thermal Radiation, very awesome. Has a couple of great heals. Has shield powers that increase resistance, which is great. It has a res power. Has the anti-mez power. Has Forge, which gives plus damage, plus 2 hits. Heat Exhaustion, which is great. It makes it so your enemies will run out of endurance faster. Thermal is great for everything, I would say. There is actually not a power in Thermal that that is bad to get. I have a Thermal. Thermals are great. Melt Armor makes it so your enemies have minus resistance and minus defense. Also great power. Moving on.